The BBC is covering up for a convicted war criminal. The BBC obituary of Dick Cheney reads like a polished tribute, not the account of a man who championed torture programs, illegal wars, and caused millions of people to die. Let's talk about what the BBC left out and why it's important. Here's how the BBC introduces Cheney, one of the most powerful vice presidents in history, if controversial, with a glittering career. But Cheney's career translated directly into war, torture, surveillance, death, and human suffering on a massive scale.
They're going to have to decide. Are they going to stand with the United States and believe in freedom and democracy and civilization, or are they going to stand with the terrorists and the barbarians, if you will?
The obituary spends more time on his family and his heart problems than on the consequences of his decisions to incite and support conflict around the world. Let's start with the human cost of his legacy. The Costs of War project tallies the catastrophic casualties across the theater of the so-called War on Terror. U.S. forces are directly responsible for killing hundreds of thousands of people. Millions of people were killed indirectly by U.S. policy, and millions more were displaced from their homes. The BBC makes no mention of the death toll associated with Cheney's decisions.
It's the Middle East, and stuff happens in the Middle East.
The BBC describes Cheney as a leading advocate of the war and claims that he insisted that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction. Well, no, he deliberately lied and presented information he knew to be false to desperately link Iraq to 9/11. It wasn't an honest mistake, nor was it insistence. It was a deliberate campaign of deceit to get the U.S. back into war with Iraq.
There is no doubt that Saddam Hussein now has weapons of mass destruction.
Because that's what the article leaves out, is that this was the second time Cheney lied about Iraq to propel the U.S. into war against the oil-rich country. In 1990, he used fabricated evidence that Iraq was amassing thousands of tanks and soldiers along the border with Saudi Arabia. That argument was central to the U.S. entering the first Gulf War under the auspices of protecting Saudi Arabia from an Iraqi invasion. The article says he persuaded Saudi Arabia's king, but doesn't say that the evidence Cheney presented of troop buildup along the border was completely made up, just like the claim of Iraqi WMDs that would follow 10 years later. Twice, Cheney lied to get the U.S. to go to war with Iraq, and that's not clear in this article.
So no regrets about Iraq?
I think we made exactly the right decisions.